Today I'm going to show you some leaf printing. So these were done using some acer leaves and these using some jasmine, faux jasmine, false jasmine leaves, and this was with Lady's Mantle. What I've done to do these is I've used something called a jelly plate. It's basically made of gelatine, and I chose a round one because I wanted to make shapes that I could use on cards. To make these, I used these type of wax papers, which are used to separate beef burgers and put toffees in, etc. And these transparent papers there, both of which I got from Amazon. For these, you'll see that there's a metallicness to them, and which is quite pleasant and will catch the light on a card. So what I used for them was 3 types of acrylic paint. I used a pastel type. I used a very standard solid colours type from Winsor & Newton, which has a nice range of colours, and I also used some metallic acrylic paints. So I just used acrylic paints. You could use any acrylic paints you have in the house. Instead of using these wax papers, you could use baking parchment, which is slightly yellow, or you could use tissue paper. I've done it before with tissue paper and feathers, and it's very, very effective. So you can cut circles out. To cut these out, I did that once they were printed, like this one, and I used the circle to draw around on the back to give me lines to cut out. So as the printing is fairly free-form and natural and does its own thing, having a certain shape around it gives it a bit of structure on your card. You could stick it with, I use a solid glue stick called a Pritt stick here in the UK, on both sides, on the front of the card and on the back of the motif to stick them. And then you can use embellishments. You can buy metallic happy birthdays to stick on cards, etc. Congratulations, new baby, wedding, engagement, or you can just leave them blank to use for notelets. On these, which I just did yesterday, I used a standard acrylic paint, the Galleria acrylic paint, and I also used the metallic paint for the darker colour, and to get the light detail behind, I actually used some watercolour paints. They're just cheap watercolour paints that I got from a neighbour who was running a stall in aid of the local museum. So I got these for £1 each packet, which is pretty amazing. But I'm not, they're made of mica powder, but I'm not expecting them to last years and years and years. So I wouldn't use these for watercolour piece that I was expecting to sell as an framed original or an unframed original, because I don't know if they will last. They might be what's called fugible, which basically means they would deteriorate in UV light, in sunlight. All watercolours do to a certain extent, more than acrylics or oil paints, but I would hate to make a piece of art that I sold to somebody in good faith and then found it deteriorated really quickly. So, but I can still use them for things like print to order and for cards. which are more ephemeral, last less long. So what I did was I used my jelly print plate and I covered it with splodges of watercolour before I went and put the paper down on it. I put the less shiny side down on, so that's the shiny side. So the other side's a bit more matte and it's got a weave to it, so I put that down on the jelly plate, covered with my watercolours here, and I took these prints, and you get different effects. So then for these, what I did is I just used a paintbrush full of the pinky purpley metallic and just splodged it on the paper after. So you can work on whatever effect you like. I'm going to show you that in a few minutes. But what I'm going to focus on first is for using foliage from the garden to make your prints. Now, if the print isn't strong enough, if it's a bit busy, this one was a bit busy, but what I did was I used a dark navy blue and a quite structured plant leaf, the faux jasmine, across it, and that gives it a bit of definition, which improves the look of it. Anyway, so I'm going to clear these all away and actually show you how to do the printing. Okay, just bear with me, thank you. Right, so I'm back. I've been to the garden to collect some foliage. This is an acer leaf. This is from an acrylic plant. I might need to divide that up to give it more definition because they overlap a bit. This is my false jasmine. And I've got the kind of colours I'm going to use because this is a pale blue. It's nice and shimmery. I could use a dark blue or a metallic purple or a deep copper. So I'm going to start, I think, with the deep copper, and I'm going to use one of my false jasmines. So you see that would go quite nicely over it to give a nice, well-defined print. So this is what's called hand printing, and it's very easy, really. So I'm going to squeeze a bit of acrylic paint. You can buy block printing paint, lino cut block printing paint. You don't need to. If you've just got some acrylic paint hanging around, either for yourself or for the children, you can use that. So I'm painting the leaf, the good cover, and a bit on the stem as well of this metallic paint. Okay, so I just need to get some kitchen towel to help me print it. Pop my circle of print there. This little square paper. It's 6-inch paper, and the jelly plate was 4-inch. As I say, you don't need that. You could just use the top of a vase, or the bottom of a vase, or maybe a saucer if you want bigger ones. You know, a cup if you want smaller ones. Just find something in the kitchen if it's round, and you can just cut out these papers from tissue paper. Okay, so it's all about laying it, and then I'm just going to press nice and firmly and see what we get. So the print on the tissue is quite interesting. I could have put another piece of this paper on top and maybe got the same effect on that. And then I'm just going to carefully lift off the leaf. There we go. another one in a different colour across in a few minutes. Okay, leave that to dry and we'll try another piece. Same technique. I'm just going to use my paint to cover the leaf. Now if your leaf print turns out messy, don't worry, really don't worry about it. The thing with hand printing or hand creating anything is it's good if you can see that it's been done by hand. That might seem very obvious, but a lot of people forget it. They just think it's always got to be perfect. So I'm going to lay this down here, and then I'm going to put another one on top and see if we can get 2 prints for the price of 1. You can see it's coming through. It's quite exciting. Whoa. So they've both come out quite nicely. I'm not saying those are finished pieces yet. You could just do more printing and see how you go. Right, since I've got a jelly plate here, just in case any of you want to get one, as I say, you don't need it. You can do leaf printing just on tissue paper, or as I've been doing it without a jelly plate. The jelly plate can produce some really lovely textures. So what I'm first doing is I'm wetting with clean water the watercolours. Stir it up a bit. These metallic colours are actually called by artists interference paints, and they're called interference paints as well as metallic paints because how you get the metallic quality to the paint is actually from the particles in the paint interfering with how we perceive the colour to make it metallic and shimmery. Okay, so adding another colour on. I'm just painting it on. So to do this, you do not even need a roller, a brayer they call it in printing. You don't even need that. You can just paint it on any watercolours you've got. I'm just using metallic ones because for a greeting card I want it to look just a little bit more luxurious. And you can see that the paint is resisting the gelatine plate, the jelly plate. You can find online recipes to make your own jelly plate, but actually I looked at it, and the cost of buying all the ingredients, like a lot of things in life, like a lot of home baking, was more than actually the cost of buying a ready-made jelly print plate, which is just because I suppose the manufacturers can buy their materials in bulk, whereas we're buying from retail. So don't feel like you have to, unless you want the fun of it, don't feel you have to make your own gelatin plate. But if you want to, there are recipes online for how to make, and instructions for how to make your own gelatin plate. I think it's only 2 or 3 materials in it. So that, you can see this is the non-shiny side, and this is the shiny side. You can see the light on it. So I'm going to use the non-shiny side down on the plate, and then all I do is I just smooth it with my hand. And then peel it off. And you see some of the paint has stuck to the paper. Some of it has stayed on the jelly plate, so to use that, because I make bulk cards in bulk, because I sell cards, that's what this paint is. And if you sign up to my newsletter, you might even win. So quite often do giveaways for new signers to my newsletter. You might even win a pack of cards that I've handmade. So I've got a bit more off. So it's just another way of applying pigment. So what I'm going to do, just to get it with a bit more paint on them, is I'm just going to put it straight on with the brush, which will give a different effect. Still, it's resisting it, isn't it? It's going into little droplets, which is a nice texture compared to the more defined leaf print. With this, there's really no right or wrong answer. You just do it as you like it. Don't be too perfectionist though. I always think art is like you're working with materials. Materials have their own mind of what they want to do. There's no such thing as, over materials are wrong. We just have to work out how to use them in the way which works best for us. So sometimes you buy something like watercolours and they don't do what you want, and maybe they go grainy, and that's one of their attributes. That's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just they're made to do that. Or they might do the opposite. You might want them to be grainy, or you might buy a more inky watercolour set and find that they don't blend enough for you. Well, then you just lay layers on top of each other. So as you can see, I'm just dotting on. And this is how I got the papers I've printed on. I just lay them out to dry, and then once they're dry, once the water's evaporated from the paint, I can use them to leaf print, or I can print with a feather. Okay, so I'm going to now in a minute come back and show you how to use a jelly plate with a roller and with acrylic paint, I should say. So I'm now back with a clean jelly plate, and I've got out my my pastel colours. So why I'm using pastels for this is because then the metallic, which is darker, will show easier. I don't know if you've seen, but in the top, it's not very easy to see here, but in the top of the lid there is, if you turn it upside down, there's a little sharp point inside the lid. So an easy way to open, if like this, the watercolours have metal on the inside, is to just stab it, and then I can get the paint out. So what I'm going to do, spread a bit of paint. I'm going to try and do a two-tone effect, which may not work. But hey, hey, this is fun, so nothing's wrong with it. So these are, this one I used yesterday. These are fairly pale, so they're pastels. So then I'm going to use my brayer, and all I'm going to do is smooth this paint over the jelly paint. Now there's all kinds of art to techniques to using a brayer, but I've just given it a bit of a roll just to get it all over, so I get an all over shape. Then I've still got some purple left, so waste not, want not. I'm going to make this leaf purple again. And then I'm going to place it on my jelly pen plate. And I'm going to use another piece of paper. This time I'm going to use the artist's transparent paper. It's like tracing paper. It's very plasticky. And both sides are the same. And I'm just going to take a print like that, smoothing it with my hands. It's not perfect, I've got a little bit there, but that's fine. This is hand printing, it's not meant to be perfect. If I want to, I can cover that with something after. And then I'm just going to remove it, which is called pulling the print. And I think that's actually quite pleasant. Okay, so my leaf has moved, which is a shame, but I'm going to try and put it back to where it was. And then I'm just going to pop and get a piece of paper. I'll show you what I'm doing with a piece of paper. Right, I'm back with my piece of paper. And all I'm going to show you is it's just something very simple. I've got my brayer, it's now full of these pastel colours, and I want to use it for something else. So I want to make a deep colour using it, so I need to not have pastel colours on it. So all I'm going to do to get them off is roll it on a piece of office printing paper. And most of it's come off now, so it's clean enough to use. And I've got a piece of paper with the colours on that I might like to use for collage, or to add an extra detail to a card. Say if I cut out circles or hearts or hexagons, I could use them as extra card toppers. So I'm going to put that out of the way to dry. It won't fall over. So now I've got my rolling tray. You could use anything. You could use a baking tray or anything, or plastic surface, a bit of plastic board. And what I'm going to want to do is there's still paint under the leaf, and I want to use that for what I do next. So what I'm going to do is I've got some of the copper, and I'm going to put it on my brayer, and I'm going to try and hold my leaf in place and roll that over my circle of jelly. I'm doing this on top of my hob, because my hob is one of those glass hobs, and it's really easy to clean. So just be aware of where you do it. You might want to put plastic sheeting down or something. I'm having to be very careful, because as you see, the roller can lift the leaf. might actually just put in a bit of purple detail as well. For a bit of fun. More colours are better. Okay. So then I'm going to lift my leaf, and you can basically see the original leaf under it, parts of it, in the original pastel colours I first used on the plate. And then I'm just going to smooth this paper down. As I say, you could just start with tissue paper or printer paper. Once you've cut something into circles, it looks a lot more sophisticated. Tissue paper is quite nice because it moves with the ink. You don't have to use a jelly plate. You could just paint the leaves and print. You could just cut a circle out of a piece of paper like this, place that down, and then paint inside it to give you your circular block of colour, using the paper as a stencil. Stenciling is another form of printing. Okay, so now I'm going to what we call pull the print, and this is fine because there's no leaf, so it's going to come up easy. And there we are. It's a bit of a leaf shape. That's a bit messy, so what I might like to do, I'm going to move this away, wipe that paint off, and I'm going to use another of these leaves, and I'm going to do one in navy on top, just to give it a bit more definition to the piece. Ideally, I'd do this once it was dry, but just to give you, hopefully, an idea of how we do this. Now I'm doing this on the top. You can get more definition of the veins, etc., if you do it with the leaf the other way round. So actually, let me just show you that. Brush that off, and I do it that way round. You see, it's got raised veins which will catch the paint or not and create more definition in the print. So I've got that full paint. I quite like doing them at angles to each other, like crossed swords, I suppose. Put that down. Get the cleanest part of my kitchen towel and quietly press it in. Now if I'd let it dry, the paint that's already there, we'd get an easier process and a cleaner print. But just to show you how effective using a dark colour, a dark acrylic paint can be. And there we are. So I think that's a bit more effective. Now it's got a dark colour in it. So it's got a light in the pastel, it's got a mid-tone in the copper and purple, and a dark in the blue. And that's the magic three that makes design work in my mind. Anyway, I'll say goodbye for now. As I say, you don't need a brayer, you don't need a jelly plate, you don't need fancy paper. You can do it on print paper or tissue paper. You can make a circle by cutting out circle from going round a saucer or a cup, and then just painting through it to your paper, or you could just cut out tissue paper in circles, use some acrylic paint. It doesn't need to be expensive. This is artist grade, but it doesn't need to be. And just paint the leaves. Use some kitchen towel to press them into your tissue paper. And you're away. Enjoy.